Thank you. Check, check. All right.
It's on.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Planning Commission meeting. Call this meeting to order at 9:01, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Test, test.
Can we get verification of legal notice or notices? Okay, thank you. I don't see a consent agenda on the I don't think there's one. No item for consent agenda, okay. So we move into public input. Any person may speak for 3 minutes about any subject of concern, provided that it is within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission and is not already on today's agenda or scheduled for a future public hearing. Speakers are requested to legibly write your name on the sign-in sheet at the podium and state your name for the record. Agendas of public meetings and supporting documents are available for public inspection in the Lake County Courthouse Community Development Department, 3rd floor, 255 North 4th Street, Lakeport, California. Also, just a reminder that a request for disability-related modifications or accommodations necessary to participate in the Planning Commission meeting should be made in writing to the Planning Commission assistant at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. With that, we will move on to our, if anybody would like to speak, we do have that time. Can we check the Zoom room just in case? And this is for public input. All right, there is nobody on Zoom and nobody in the chambers, so we will move on to our first item, our 905, which is consideration of proposed major use permit UP 21-53 and mitigated negative declaration IS 21-56 for Firemountain Ranch, Lower Lake LLC for approval of a permit consisting of 130,680 square feet of outdoor canopy area, 7,500 square feet mixed light canopy area, within 147,340 square feet of cultivation area located at 21506 Morgan Valley Road in Lower Lake, APN 012-069-17.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We're having a little bit of technical trouble. I would like to present a PowerPoint, but I'm unable to share the screen. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes. Is that okay? Sure. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. So this morning, I am presenting to you UP 2153, major use permit for Fire Mountain Ranch and located at 21506 Morgan Valley Road in Lower Lake. Parcel number is 012-06917. Today, the applicant agenda is a permit request, the scope of the project, the site description, project analysis, cumulative impacts, and recommendations and conditions. I would like to note that there is a mistake on the staff report. It was not updated with the correct information. I did green sheet it for everybody in the room. Also, the initial study, the conditions of approval reflect the correct information. So the permit request, the applicant is requesting 3 A-type 3 medium outdoor licenses, 3 A-type 1C special cottage licenses, for 138,180 square foot of outdoor canopy. They are also requesting a Type 13 cannabis distribution license. The project parcel is located approximately 6.7 miles east of California State Highway 29 in Lower Lake. The site is accessed via a shared private gravel access road that connects directly to Morgan Valley Road and leads to the cultivation area on parcel 012-06917. The zoning map, as you can see, this parcel is split zoned. Its general plan designation is rural lands. The base zoning is rural lands and agricultural preserve district. It is located in the Lower Lake planning area. The parcels within the vicinity are zoned agriculture preserve, rural lands, and open space. As you can see, here's some photos of the site. There are class 2 and 3 ephemeral water courses. There's no channels or wetlands located within the project areas. There are some on the project site, but not within the project areas. The project parcel is located approximately 6.9 miles southeast of Lower Lake Unified School District. And the scope of the project is going to be 138,180 square feet of outdoor canopy with a total cultivation area of 144,340 square feet. They are proposing a 6,000 square foot processing facility and a 160 square foot storage for pesticides, fertilizers, and nutrients. So the existing uses on the parcel are, there are 3 groundwater wells with a total maximum yield of approximately 37 gallons per minute. There is a shallow well located on the property that they are going to abandon or that has been abandoned. They do have a backup generator. Access roads are shared with a private driveway. The cultivation area would be accessed via the shared private gravel access and access roads. They do have locking metal gates across a private gravel access. And the project analysis, we checked the general plan, the Lower Lake area plan, the Lake County zoning ordinance, and state regulations. The Lake County general plan, the rural lands general plan designation was reviewed. There is no conflicting policies within the general plan and no specific policies addressing commercial cannabis cultivation in the general plan. The Lower Lake area plan project analysis was objective 4.1, fire hazards, just stating that in the Lower Lake area plan, they would like for development to implement fire, like in the event that wildfire. So planning for wildfire protection involves integrating local circulation patterns, vegetation management, and water storage to increase fire safety. So emergency access can be improved by constructing loop roads, systems, and bridges with adequate structural strength to support firefighting equipment. Vegetation management techniques are intended to reduce fuel load and include maintenance of fire breaks and fuel modifications. So there is going to be a fire suppression water tank with systems appropriately designed to be able to protect against that. The Lower Lake Area Plan 5.1 land use, the community development component of the Lower Lake Area Plan focuses on land use, circulation, public services, housing, and economic development in the town of Lower Lake, with the rural portions of the planning area are also considered in a more general manner, as this project is rural. Objective 5.3, public services, the local government's ability to deliver adequate public services, an essential component to accommodating the expected growth in Lower Lake. The project analysis for the local zoning ordinance, we did Article 27, which is uses generally permitted, Article 7, rural lands district, Article 4, agriculture preserve district. So that's what this parcel, we checked all of those ones. And the CEQA initial study found that the project could potentially have impacts to resources for aesthetics, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, and tribal resources, geology, soils, hazardous and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, transportation, and traffic and wildfire. California Environmental Quality Act is that a mitigated negative declaration is proposed. CEQA environment determination for the project. All identified impacts can be reduced to less than significant with mitigation. Public comment period occurred from February 28th, 2023 to March 30th, 2023. Mitigations are outlined in the staff reports, attachments 2, draft conditions of approval, and attachment 4 with the initial study. AB 52 tribal consultation. The tribal consultation notice was sent to local tribes on September 4th of 2021. I think that's a mistake. I should say 2021. 3 responses were received. The Yoko Dehi Winton Nation declined to comment. The Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians did not seek consultation. And the Cultural Resource Director for Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Hapamatilo, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that right, Pomo of Upper Lake Tribe declined to comment for the project. Urgency ordinance number 3106. The following documents have been in accordance with the urgency number 3106. They did provide a hydrology report and a drought management plan. And according to the water availability analysis report for the project prepared by Hervit Environmental Service, a well performance test performed in 2021 indicates that the 3 on-site groundwater wells can sustainably produce a total of 37 gallons per minute. The estimated annual water use for the total proposed cultivation operation with 144,340 square foot of canopy would be approximately 6.86 acre feet, or approximately 2,235,440 gallons. Aspect of interest, water concerns. There are, like I stated earlier, there are 4 wells located on the site. Well number 1, Ag Well 1, a depth of 508 feet, will yield 7 gallons per minute. Well number 2, at a depth of 309 feet, will yield 16 gallons per minute. Well number 3, at a depth of 330 feet, will yield 15 gallons per minute. Well number 4 is shallow, and it will be abandoned, and no water will be taken from that well. The radius of influence report for the cumulative impacts for the neighboring wells determined that the 2 closest off-site wells were burned from recent fires and are no longer in use. Therefore, while these wells may be within the potential radius of pumping influence for well number 3, they are not considered a concern to this assessment. All water for the proposed cultivation operation would be supplied from 3 existing groundwater wells. The anticipated peak daily usage for the proposed cannabis cultivation would be approximately 18,900 gallons per day, with an average demand of 11,000 gallons per day during cultivation season, April through November, for an approximate annual water use of 7.1 acre feet per year. The on-site groundwater wells are capable of producing 63 acre feet per year combined. And these are the pumping influence for each of the wells. So this is going to be for well number 1, and it tells you 150 feet within the pumping influence. This is well number 2. And this is well number 3, and this is all available in the hydrology report. This is the map of the cumulative impacts of cannabis approved projects in the area and proposed. So within a 3-mile radius of the proposed project, there are 5 approved projects and 9 pending projects. The proposed project has been planned and designed to avoid impacts as discussed in the CEQA analysis within the draft initial study mitigated negative declaration.
That's a really helpful chart to include in staff reports. Thanks.
Yes. Recommendations, environmental recommendations. We recommend that you adopt the mitigated negative declaration, initial study IS 21-56 for the use permit UP 21-53 with the findings found in the staff report. The major use permit recommendations is approve use permit UP 21-53 with the proposed conditions of approval and with the findings found in the staff report. Again, I did update the staff report and gave you guys the updated version. They were proposing mixed light use, and they are no longer proposing mixed lights. And any questions or comments?
You said they're no longer doing mixed light?
Greenhouses, no. They
No more.
were, originally they proposed 10 greenhouses, and they are no longer proposing that.
So would that canopy just not be included in the project anymore? Or
Yeah, it's
would it
everything
be-
the green sheeted staff report is what is updated.
Okay.
And that's allowed because it's rural lands, not ag preserve. Am I understanding that right?
I just think that they chose just to do strictly outdoor. I'm not sure, where the project location is not within the ag
Okay, that's
preserve
what I-
area. It's in the rural lands area. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, that answers my question.
Okay.
Just one quick question. So I see where the water tanks are going to be on the site plans. This might be a question actually for the applicants. If we can get a representative. Yeah, and I'll be opening public comment for this project.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Trey Sherrill, consultant for the applicant Fire Mountain Ranch.
Hi, Trey. So I had a question. So I see 12 5,000-gallon water storage tanks. 6 of them are near cultivation site, and it looks like there's 2 around each well site. Is that correct?
It's actually for, the purpose is to try to gravity feed water from the wells, or from the tanks, pump water from the well to the tanks, and then gravity feed water from the tanks to the cultivation area. There's a metal fire water storage tank proposed next to the proposed processing facility. And then the other water storage tanks would be located directly adjacent to the 3 wells,
Okay, yeah,
4 at each well.
That was my question. 4 on each well?
Yes.
Okay. Because on the site plan, it doesn't show that, unless if there was an updated one. But
Yeah,
I was just curious as to where.
I sent the updated site plan to, as a green sheet to you guys last week, and I also had the site plan green sheeted as well, because it was updated.
Cool, thank you.
I have another question for the applicant. Sorry, Trey, I didn't mean to make you get up and down. This seems like a very straightforward application, and it's thorough and all of that. I appreciate that. The property owner and applicant are Texas-based, it appears.
Yes,
And
sir.
I have nothing against that in theory, but are the people on site local? Will some of the money this generates remain in Lake County? It's always important to me to know that the applicant has a commitment to the county.
Absolutely, and actually, I think the best answer to that would be the applicant who's here with us, and one of their employees who's a local, their head employee who is a local
Perfect,
resident.
thanks.
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question about the pumps. They're all diesel, right? I know.
Oh, no, these would be solar-powered pumps.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Fabricio Escobar. I represent Fire Mountain Ranch. And no, you're very true. I mean, all the employees and everybody is going to be locally based. So I mean, we've been in this process for 2 years now. Actually, Kyle Williams, he represents Autocana. He's the one that brought us to the area. So, I mean, we're super excited to help support the community and, of course, the county and everybody else. Just a little side note, I had a 27-hour day yesterday. I took my daughter to Virginia where she's going to school, and so I drove her 1,200 hours, and I actually flew all the way from East Coast to West Coast to be here today. So I'm very excited to be here and have this opportunity. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to do everything top notch. So of course, everything's by the book and all that stuff, and we're super excited to be here and support the community.
Thank you.
My name's Kyle Williams. I represent Autocana. He will be, Fire Mountain Ranch will be our neighbor. We're excited to have them, and I just wanted to thank the board for helping us out about the square foot tax and taking that down. I just really want to thank y'all because that was a huge help for us. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thomas Williams. I didn't travel far to be here. For me, it really is about taking care of the people that are going to be helping us on the ranch. And we're excited to do this, but for me, the job creation and the opportunity to do something positive here in the county is a big deal for me, and I really appreciate that.
One question, Trey, regarding the processing facility. Do you guys have power out there?
No, we're proposing a roof-mounted photovoltaic solar array, and then battery storage, as well as a generator for backup power usage.
Okay. And what about the, I think you said it was going to be on a concrete pad. What is how are you guys doing on the excavating and the permit for that?
Yes, less than 500 cubic yards will need to be moved for the building. There's actually already a pad there. It just needs to be expanded slightly. Prior to the Rocky Fire, there was a residence on this pad, and then that burned down in the Rocky Fire. And so the idea is to use that pad, expand it slightly to accommodate the size of the building. And we had grading plans drawn up for it. It's less than 500 cubic yards, which would be covered under the building permit as opposed to needing a separate grading permit.
Cool. Thank you. Do we have any more questions or? Yeah. Okay, so I'll be, we'll give a check on the Zoom room, see if there's any public comment for this project.
Yes, there's one person ready to speak.
Yeah.
I always forget about the Zoom room.
Yeah. They have.
We are moving to the Zoom room. Anne, you are now allowed to speak. Please state your name.
Yes, I'm Ann Bauer, but I'm actually interested in the next project, but I was just trying to figure out how to get in the room, so I'll wait.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other,
you.
any other hands? Seeing as there are no hands in the Zoom room, and no other hands in chambers, I will be closing public comment and bringing it back to the commission for action or more discussion.
If there is no further discussion, I'm prepared to offer a motion. I move that the Planning Commission find that potential impacts associated with this project can be mitigated to less than significant through the implementation of the Mitigated Negative Declaration IS 21-56 for Fire Mountain Ranch Lower Lake LLC at the property located at 21506 Morgan Valley Road, Lower Lake, and further described in this motion, will not have a significant effect on the environment, and that the Planning Commission adopt initial study IS 21-56 based on the findings listed in the staff report dated May 25, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I move further that the Planning Commission grant the major use permit UP 21-53 for Fire Mountain Ranch Lower Lake LLC on property located at 21506 Morgan Valley Road, Lower Lake, and further described in this motion, based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the staff report dated May 25, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Note that any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fees must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th day following the Planning Commission's decision on this matter.
Now you can get some sleep, Fabrizio.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our second item, 6B, public hearing, consideration of proposed major use permit UP 20-95, Artemis, am I saying that correctly? Artemis Farms LLC, and mitigated negative declaration IS 20-115 for permit approval that would allow for a current proposal of 179,803 square feet of outdoor commercial cannabis canopy. with licensing allowing up to 653,400 square feet of outdoor canopy within the specified cultivation area located at, I'm not sure if that's a mistake there, but it's 5200 and 5500 and 4960 and 4970 Bartlett Springs Road, and 7197 15N 11 Road, Lucerne, California, APNs 004-018-33, 004-018-34, 004-028-21, 004-018-36, 004-018-07, 004-018-35, 004-028-22, 004-018-19, 004-018-20, and finally 004-018-22, which, yeah, that's it. A lot of 004s. And we can begin our presentation.
Okay, can you guys? Hello, let's see, is the mic on? Can you hear me? My name is Andrew Amelong. I'm the Cannabis Program Manager with the County of Lake Planning Division. And we'll go ahead and move on to the agenda for the presentation, which will cover the permit request, the project scope, site description, project analysis.
Hey, Andrew, just a...
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Sam. Okay, back to the agenda for the presentation. We will again cover the permit request, the project scope, the site description, the project analysis, cumulative impacts, as well as aspects of interest, which isn't on this list, and then recommendations, conditions, and then we'll open up for questions. The permit, as it's currently proposed, is requesting 5 Type 3 medium outdoor licenses. However, the cultivation area has a capacity for up to 15 Type 3 medium outdoor licenses. The applicant would like the option to pursue that larger amount, and that's kind of why you can see these conflicting figures throughout the staff report. If you read the staff report, it kind of explained that, but it originated when the applicants were essentially trying to determine their tax base. It was during a period where the county was going back and forth between the taxes based on cultivation area versus canopy area, and they were factoring in the spacing and the rows of the canopy area with engineered plans, which is something that applicants can pursue, and they chose that option. So that's, hopefully that can clear up some of the confusion. And in addition to up to 15 Type 3 medium outdoor licenses, the applicant is also pursuing a Type 13 self-distribution license and a Type 4 nursery license. The combined parcels are approximately 752 acres together. The project site is located approximately 1 mile north of the intersection of Highway 20 and Bartlett Springs Road between Nice and Lucerne. The site is accessed via shared private driveway access road that connects directly to Bartlett Springs Road and leads to the project site. Under our general plan, the base zoning for the project is rural lands. It falls under the Upper Lake Nice planning area, And the parcels within the vicinity are zoned agricultural preserve, rural lands, and open space, as well as some substandard older subdivision lots. It's in Supervisor District 3 as well. The two cultivation areas, A and C, on the site plans are located on top of the ridge line of Hogback Ridge towards the north side of the ridge. The processing, storage, and ancillary structures, including water tanks, are also located in this general area, while the nursery greenhouses are located in the 40 Springs Valley below the cultivation area to the east. The proposed cultivation area is approximately 15.15 acres. The currently proposed canopy area is approximately 4.12 acres. The environmental analysis, as stated earlier, covered a project scope of up to 15 acres of canopy, including water use. And then again, rows and spacing were factored into the engineered plans. With rows and spacing included, the applicant has indicated that they would probably have a maximum canopy area of around 11.4 acres. Also included in the project scope is a 48,000 square foot processing facility. It's Building B on the site plans. A 4,950 square foot greenhouse nursery. It's Building E on the site plans. 14,300 square foot greenhouse nursery, as well as a 22,000 square foot storage building. 18 5,000 gallon water tanks in the first stage of the project, which would then be replaced by 3 50,000 gallon water tanks in the second stage of the project. The applicant intends to first develop cultivation area C. It'll be a few years out before they get to cultivation area A, and I believe they are here today. They can clarify that then they will pursue the nursery area.
But the staff report contemplates the entire build-out, correct?
Correct, yes. Existing uses. Currently, there is one cabin on parcel 004-01819. According to comments from Environmental Health, this cabin will require a septic tank inspection. They don't have a record of the septic tank, and that has been added to the conditions of approval. There's also one existing well on parcel 004-01807 with a yield of approximately 54 gallons per minute. One existing well on parcel 004-01807 with a yield of approximately 13.5 gallons per minute. And then one existing well on parcel 004-02822 with an approximate yield of 30 gallons per minute. I think the initial test for that last well, the two previous wells were existing on the property, and then they drilled a third well. The first test, I think, was around 10 gallons per minute, but with some maintenance, it can yield up to 30 gallons per minute. The previous wells on the property were due to some development plans that never were implemented. I think the previous property owner planned to break up the parcels into smaller ranchettes. And then again, access road is through a shared private driveway that connects directly to Bartlett Springs Road. In terms of the project analysis, regulations reviewed for compliance include the Lake County General Plan, the Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and state regulations. For the general plan, Chapters 3 on land use, Chapter 7 for health and safety, Chapters 8 for noise, and Chapter 11 for water resources were covered. No conflicting policies within the general plan were identified, and no specific policies addressing commercial cannabis in the cultivation were included in the general plan. For the Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, Sections 3.11A covering appropriate erosion control measures, 4.41B covering industrial and commercial activities and hazardous materials were covered, and 4.4.1G alternatives to burning of vegetative waste such as chipping or composting were also covered, and the applicants were willing to accommodate to those needs. For the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, Article 7 on rural lands, Articles 37 on waterway combining districts and Article 27 were covered. For the CEQA analysis and the initial study found that the project could cause potential impacts to resources such as air quality, biological resources, cultural resources and tribal resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, and wildfire were identified, and mitigation measures were put in place to bring those impacts to less than significant, with wildfire impacts being covered through geology and soil mitigation measures and hydrology measures. I think I'll get to it in a future slide. So to meet the needs of the California Environmental Quality Act, a mitigated negative declaration is proposed with the environmental determination for the project. All identified impacts can be reduced to less than significant with mitigation measures. Public comment period occurred from March 1st, 2023 to March 30th, 2023, and mitigations are outlined in the staff reports as well as in the draft initial study and have been incorporated into the conditions of approval. Some aspects of interest for the project. Of course, water analysis is always going to be a major issue. The proposed project will obtain water from 3 existing groundwater supply wells. A water availability analysis and drought management plan was prepared according to the requirements of County Ordinance 3106. The draft initial study and mitigated negative declaration took into consideration the maximum possible water use for up to 15 acres of canopy area as a precautionary measure. And current estimates for water use consist of 11.5 acre feet per year for cultivation and 1.9 acre feet per year for the nursery, with a combined total of 13.48 acre feet per year. Here is a couple of photos of one of the existing wells on site. I will get to some more details on that well here with another aspect of interest. But first, let's go on to access. As stated, the project is accessed through a private gated driveway that is connected to Bartlett Springs Road. Road improvements and grading are planned to bring the road to Public Resource Code 4290, 4291 standards for commercial structures, and the new road will consist of crushed rock and gravel. And here are a couple images of the existing road, which is mostly a compacted dirt road, some gravel at the entrance, and that's the gate to access it from Bartlett Springs. The project is proposing tree and vegetation removal. It is needed and can be approved through a grading permit and a less than 3 acre conversion exemption from the Department of Forestry, CAL FIRE. A large number of trees throughout the property were damaged in the Mendocino Complex fire, and many of which were down due to winter storms caused by several atmospheric rivers over the past year. I think the project had an initial proposal of up to 240 trees to be removed. However, the storms brought a majority of those down. The current tree removal proposal would include 47 pines, 27 oaks, and 6 Douglas firs, many of which are damaged. An oak mitigation plan was included in a tree survey memorandum and includes a tree replacement of the oak species at a 2-to-1 ratio. And again, here's some images of the conditions of the trees. You can see they had the trees tagged and surveyed. And there are some examples of some of them that had come down in the storm and others that are still standing, however, largely damaged.
Andrew, I'm trying to remember something from the staff report. I can't find it right now.
Okay.
In terms of oak mitigation, I thought the tree management report said something about, because there are still 62 trees standing, there was no mitigation recommended? Or was that in an earlier version?
It might have been an earlier version. The applicant had submitted an updated version with the 2-to-1 ratio. We explored options of increasing that ratio. However, we don't really have any, codified language to back that up. We have seen there was internal policy that the planning division had implemented in past projects with the former resource planner to require a 3-to-1 to 5-to-1 ratio. But again, that was just an internal policy of previous.
No, I would have had a problem if there was no ratio established.
Yeah, I don't feel like 2-to-1 is anywhere close to adequate because just the number, of years it takes for them to grow up. I don't remember where I read it, but I thought the standard was 7 to 1, that
Yeah, I think generally, I had a conversation with a biologist recently, and the survival rate is about 15% for
Something like
oaks.
that,
So
yeah,
like
it's really low.
8.5 would really cover the replacement, but
Where will they be planted on the property?
I'm going to let the applicant address that when.
Because I do agree with concerns about mature
Yeah,
trees and habitat.
I was hoping the
Yes.
discussion would open up and maybe some more conditions could be developed to
Yeah, I have some
clarify some of this.
big concerns, and I think your photographs illustrate it very well. There are very few trees remaining there. And those are needed to propagate the rest of the area.
Correct,
So
yes.
We can discuss this later.
One factor to consider with that is that the total combined parcels are 752 acres in total. That would allow for, with the 20-to-1 ratio of outdoor cultivation, upwards of around 37, 38 acres of allowed canopy. However, the applicant has has chosen to only pursue a maximum of up to 15 because of the location and the, I guess, the water, the location, and the fact that the majority of that canopy area and cultivation area is a relatively open space. So, it would have minimal tree removal, where the rest of the area is pretty much pristine forest. So it would require a lot of clearing out and a lot of grading anywhere else on the site. So that's my understanding. The applicant can maybe speak further to that. Wildlife habitats. In response to the circulation of the draft initial study, we received comments from California Fish and Wildlife with concerns on impacts to wildlife habitat. The concerns included bat roosting areas, Pacific fisher habitat, Humboldt martin habitat, and tricolored blackbird habitat. Additional conditions of approval were added that include bat habitat surveys before and during tree downing, the addition of bat roosting boxes, mitigation measures to reduce artificial light, fugitive dust mitigation measures, as well as mitigation measures to reduce noise. I discussed the comments with Mr. Rodriguez from Fish and Wildlife. He was the one who submitted those comments, and he worked with me to develop some ways to address it. So he was satisfied with the addition of these conditions. And also the surveys before and during the tree downing for bat habitat came from the applicant's biologist in response to those comments. So. Let's see here, generator use. So the project is proposing the use of electric generators until PG&E electricity can be provided to the property. Currently, PG&E will not consider it until the project is approved. Article 27 prohibits the use of electric generators as a primary source of power for mixed light and indoor cultivation, as well as manufacturing, but not necessarily for outdoor cultivation.
Since when?
It's always been like that.
But isn't there, the conditions of approval state that generator use is only permitted in times of emergency?
There is that
And but in the
standard
same
language
conditions
that-
of approval, there is an accommodation for generator use.
Yes, there's that standard language, and then that was something to bring up. The applicant pointed out that in Section A, subsection 25, that statement about backup use only would need to be amended to allow for the conditions in, let's see here, Section B, subsection 3, 4, and 5 that were added, and then Section C, subsection 4, 5, and 6. One regarding air quality, and the other regarding biological resources. There are a few other conditions. Oh, yeah, also Section F, subsections 2 and 3 on hazardous materials.
No, I'm familiar with that. This is a more general comment, but I do have some specific comments for the applicant about generator use. We seem to, with the discussion about ag exempt structures, and now this application, we're talking about generator use in an entirely different way. And we seem to be nibbling away at that principle of emergency use only. And this, we're talking about a
Yeah.
maximum of 96 generators running for 3 years.
My understanding is that the applicant based this on the decision of a previous project off Butts Canyon, 3Bs, by Damian Ramirez. He had a similar situation, and the commission did approve generator use for up to 3 years until he could get PG&E hookup and In this case, we've added conditions that if they cannot get it within those 3 years, that they convert to solar energy. They were also requesting to use diesel generators. However, being on the site, given the proximity to the wildlife habitat, and again, as we do our environmental analysis, we have to assume the potential worst-case scenario with, a lot of diesel fuel on site. With that, I've changed the conditions to require it to be propane. One of the existing wells on site is already hooked up to propane, so propane deliveries are available. So
Why not convert to solar faster?
I'm going to let the applicant respond to that. I brought that up with the applicant, and they have their response to that.
Okay,
So,
there's a specific comment from the attorney regarding the transition to solar as well that I'd like to examine.
yeah, I highly encourage the applicant to explore the idea of solar. So I think that pretty much covers this slide. Let's go on to the next cumulative impacts. The project is in a pretty remote area. There are no, let's see here, there are currently no approved or pending projects located within 1 mile of the project. And within a 3-mile radius, there is 1 approved and 1 pending project. In fact, we're going to be reviewing that 1 pending project. It's a 4th item on the agenda. And the environmental recommendations that with the mitigation measures, we recommend that the Planning Commission adopt mitigated negative declaration, initial study 20-115 for use permit UP 2095 with findings found in the staff report. And we recommend that the commission approve use permit 2095 with the proposed conditions of approval and with the findings found in the staff report. And with that said, the applicant is here. I believe many of the experts she used to help prepare her plans are available in the Zoom room, so I will leave it open to questions.
Would it be you or the applicant who could discuss the sound insulation technology more?
The applicant can potentially speak to that. We added that as a biological mitigation measure. In response to concerns about the wildlife habitat. That was one of Mr. Ramirez's language. I didn't get into the specifics. There are a number of products available. There's a number of ways that you can mitigate the noise and meet basically the county's requirements for decibels. I'd like to see it extended a bit further, but that option is open for discussion without too much specification.
So Mr. Rodriguez was confident that habitat wildlife activity would not be harmed by the ongoing use of generators?
He felt that if noise insulating features were added to the generators, it could be mitigated.
We've just never talked about these features before. We've talked about carbon filters and other related technologies, but if there's that many generators operating, I wonder what the cumulative effect is even with sound insulation.
Well, and it's not just the generators. I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity up there.
Yes, it is a substantial development project.
It is in stages, I realize that.
An option for that, a further option that has been implemented with other projects is to limit the hours of generator use per day and also to limit the time of day when that generator use can take place.
Okay, thank you. Can we get the applicants? I will be opening public comment as well.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Bodner, and I'm a consultant working with Artemis Farms, and Autumn Carsey, the applicant, is also here and can answer additional questions. I want to thank you, Andrew, for taking over this project. I know it's been a lot with the department and handing off from LACO, and we appreciate the way you picked this up and finished it up. I want to address some of the questions that Commissioner Hess just raised, and then if there are additional questions, Autumn is happy to come up and speak as well. So, to frame this project, I just want to give a little context that the previous landowner had plans to divvy this up into how many ranchettes?
There's several, but the APNs, you can see from the APNs by how many numbers there are available.
Yeah, like many little ranchettes. And what this project is proposing is essentially a a small percentage of development and turning most of it into an ongoing land preservation and wildlife preserve. And that is one of the core principles behind this project, is to have minimal impact on the part that's going to be developed and then preserve a large amount of it. Autumn says this is one of the most beautiful places she's ever seen in Lake County. And so the approach here is very much to look at what is appropriate land use and then do everything possible to mitigate the environmental impacts. We support most of the recommendations in the staff report, and the generator thing is the one thing that we wanted to discuss a little bit today, which you have flagged. So, the current ordinance does not prohibit the use of generators for outdoor cultivation. And I just want to explain how generators are used for outdoor cultivation. We're really talking about powering the wells. That's it. We need the well pumps powered, and that's, common agricultural practice. It's only because of a little glitch in the collective consciousness that we have not just declared cannabis agriculture, which it is, it's watering plants that grow from the ground. And we're looking for generators to power those wells on this farm. And this is common practice in agriculture and on other outdoor farms in the county. And we understand the concerns about around diesel-powered generators. However, we need options to use other kinds of generators while we wait to see if PG&E can and will do a power drop to the property, because it's not a guarantee. You have to put in a request for PG&E to come do a power drop, and they won't entertain that request until you have an approved use permit. So after today, we get to start having that conversation. And then after today, we get to look at the comparison between viability of solar and PG&E. Additionally, a PG&E power drop depends on the approval from your neighbors to bring that power to your land. So there are a couple of things that are nuanced, and of course, continuity of operations is critical for any business. So being able to use generators to power the wells while we wait to see if PG&E can bring power is critical. In terms of the generators themselves, happy to comply with this request to not use diesel to observe the noise level standards, which are both set by the state of California and as well as reflected in the local county ordinance.
If I could just interrupt you quickly for a comment. I agree, diesel would seriously be the most problematic of the fuels involved, but are these other fuels, do those make the generators any less noisy?
So what tends to impact, when we look at generator design, there are models that are built specifically to have lower decibel output. So yes, we will use those generators that meet the required, I can't remember the decibels that you put in the staff report, but it's the technology. And yes, they are quieter. Diesel are the loudest.
If you just humor me for a moment longer, in the letter from the attorney, when one of the members of the public made a use to battery packs and e.g. Tesla, the response was, it is also important to note that 25% of the project's electricity will be supplied by 75 solar panels connected to blah, blah, blah. The project's solar infrastructure design is expandable by over 8 times to facilitate project requirements. Why not move to that transition more swiftly?
So, all of these options need to be considered. And we have to look at the cost viability of all of them, which we can do after we talk to PG&E, and we have to do price comparison and see what's going to be most viable and most sustainable, and if solar is going to be sufficient.
You haven't done a study of that yet for?
You can't do a comparative study until you can get a quote from PG&E, and PG&E won't give you a quote till after you have your use permit.
But you do have a number for just solar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer that question fully? Yeah, absolutely. So we want to consider every possible option and weigh the cost viability and the outlay of investment with also, the cost of goods. So all of this will be considered, and we understand both the concerns about diesel and noise.
And not to keep you up there, but this is just a comment for the commission staff. I think we have to deal with the conditions of approval differently, because that blanket statement about only using generators in times of emergency has been a fixture in every COA I've seen since we started doing cannabis applications. So I would just like some clarity there.
Yes, it's generally standard language that we include in all of our cannabis conditions of approval. For this one, while I had gone in and made several other conditions to address the generator use, I just did not omit that section because they are conflicting.
Just a clear contradiction in the COAs.
But it's not backed up by anything in the ordinance.
As an applicant and consultant, I wholeheartedly agree, and I wrote Andrew an email very late last night highlighting that contradiction and that it doesn't set us up for a successful conversation. Yeah.
That's a very great way of putting it. I don't see how we can even consider this without a commitment to solar, because in my mind, I look at, how many miles is it from for PG&E to, that's ridiculously expensive. I would just assume that PG&E would say absolutely not.
It's less than a mile.
Oh, is it?
The nearest pole, yeah.
Oh, really?
It's definitely possible.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that in here.
We're 1.5 miles up Bartlett Springs Road.
Just to repeat that, it's less than a mile, since she's not on the mic and potentially
Right.
people in the Zoom room can't hear that.
Thank you.
Chair Chavez, I'd like to request a 5-minute recess, please. We have a couple points to confirm just to add clarity for the Planning Commission on this item.
Okay. We will be taking a 5-minute break. I will say 10:05. All right. Seeing that it is 10:05, we will get back to our session. And we had one question regarding.
Yes, I can clarify some, I guess, some responses to some of the comments made. One clarification to make, that the project currently has no conservation easement incorporated into the project plan. It was discussed on site, however, a commitment could not be made at that time. We want to clarify that the conditions of approval need to be amended. The first section covers it, but there's another subsection that doesn't cover it, but it is for a full 15 acres of cultivation. It would allow for that, even though they may not be pursuing that amount each year. We do have the option, request to reduce and request to opt out of cultivation altogether. So they would like to be approved on the full potential of up to 15 acres. And in the conditions of approval, Section A, subsection 25, that limits generator use to backup use only, would need to be omitted. So one other clarification, they had mentioned the generator use is just for the wells. While it is primarily for the wells, it will also be used for the security buildings, the processing buildings, the nursery as well. So it's covering more than just the wells. So.
That's actually incorrect. Once we build buildings, we would. Hi, my name's Autumn Carsey, and once we build the structures, we would have solar or power from PG&E. We would not be using generators for those structures unless it was an event of emergency power outage.
This has nothing to do with the actual application, but, no, this isn't for you, Ms. Carsey. So there never was anything prohibiting generator use at any time?
Yes, there was this topic was covered in length at a planning commission hearing in 2021, which I went back and reviewed to confirm that this had been implemented. It has come up. If you read our prohibited activities within Article 27, it lists electric generators for mixed light and indoor cultivation will be prohibited and can only be used for backup, because the majority of the electrical use is for the lighting for the systems. There's also another section in Article 27 that prohibits electric generator use for manufacturing, which is also more intensive, but there's nothing specifically that prohibits it for outdoor cultivation.
So all the other applications we've approved with that condition, is it just simply
It's in their
moot now?
conditions, so it applies to their project that they can only use it for backup. This one is specifically requesting that that be removed.
One of the reasons I always supported that is because I thought there was something behind it.
I think, and I suspect that in the original Article 72, there might have been, comprehensive language about that, but Perhaps it was amended when it was converted to Article 27, and perhaps it's something that we can address with more clarification in the new ordinance, but that's getting off topic, so.
Thanks.
Commissioners, if I may, just to clarify, even if it were not outright prohibited, a particular element of a project is not outright prohibited in the ordinance, part of your analysis is to consider the project that's presented to you and all the elements, as you know, and determine whether or not, in its totality, including that element, you could make the findings, the mandatory findings. And if in your analysis you find that for whatever reason, fire reason, electrical issues, whatever your analysis is, you could continue to keep that condition, or you could have that condition within, applied to specific projects, depending on the project. Case by case. Correct. The only difference for mixed light and indoor is that there is an outright prohibition in the ordinance, so you could not change that. But you can add it as a condition to projects where it is not an outright prohibition in the ordinance.
And to further discuss that, I did add the 3-year limit based on what had been approved for previous projects to bring it back to a semi-temporary use. It wouldn't be ongoing for the life of the project, which is 10 years.
Right, and that's kind of what it sounds like. When we see here on paper, we see that, generator use for 15 acres and a processing facility or auxiliary structures, et cetera. It sounds like, when you hear just generator right next to all of that, it's kind of shocking. So, but hopefully within that 3-year limit, they will have a PG&E power up there, which would eliminate most of, our concern that we have. That's what I feel within the commission because of that whole generator use and how we've used it in the past. So hopefully that is something that happens hopefully quickly. Because there's a lot of concerns with generator use.
Yeah, absolutely.
The noise especially, and fire risks. So having that PG&E utility there would eliminate a lot of the concerns that we have today.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I phrased condition in section B, subsection 4 on air quality mitigation measures, that generator use during normal operations of the project shall be limited to natural compressed gas as a fuel source. Generator use shall be discontinued no more than 3 years following the date of approval of this project, and an alternative energy source in the form of public utilities or solar energy will be provided by the applicant. Again, within 3 years. It's a little redundant having that at the end, but.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do have some questions for the applicant, it's regarding.
Oh, also, the applicant has a presentation that they would like to.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so just the question that I have would be regarding the water storage tanks. I do see that 3 50,000-gallon tanks are proposed. Would those require some kind of concrete engineered base because of their
Yes,
size?
and it is reflected in the civil drawings.
Okay, yeah, I thought I saw the location of those, so I just wanted to make sure that all of that was, because I looked it up and they're really, really big. So compared to 5,000, I thought it was a mistake when I saw it, but yeah, just wanted to double check that.
Yes, and they are in the civil report. We can use smaller tanks if available. We just have to do the kind of cost-benefit analysis. Smaller tanks would definitely be cheaper. In fact, the follow-up farm management plan that I sent to Andrew had some questions about had some questions about what was allowable and what wasn't. So happy to flex on that.
Okay, thank you. And the cabin on that one parcel that was existing, what's the plan for that building?
It's not a part of the project area. It's been there for a long time, and we, I guess, have to permit the septic that's there, but it's not a part of the project or any use of the project. It's an old hunting cabin.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just have some comments, but I'll let you go ahead and make your presentation first.
Okay, I appreciate that. So as I mentioned, my name is Autumn Carsey, and I'm proposing the project at 5200 Bartlett Springs Road. And I would like to present this project to you today. This has been 2.5 years in the making. We purchased the project initially in, I think, around December of 2020 from Jim Fetzer. They were proposing several ranchettes on the property, as well as a vineyard. So the substantial impact of the development that was proposed before our development was very different. And out of 740 acres, we're disturbing 30 acres of total land disturbance, and the rest of that acreage is going to be held as a habitat and not to be developed. It actually, when we had the storms last year, we had over 200 dead and down trees on the property. The whole property burned in 2018 in the fire. So several of the trees that we're discussing today are already dead, damaged, or dying. You can switch to the next slide. So our application includes the property management plan, a water availability analysis prepared by Summit Engineering, who's on the Zoom call today if we have any questions, biological resources assessment by Montrose Environmental, which was formerly AES, and they are also in the Zoom room today if you have any questions for them, as well as our CEQA attorney. All of these documents have been reviewed, and we've spent the last 2.5 years amending them to meet the standards as they change within the county. So I believe we have crossed all the Ts and dotted all the Is here. So our values in action are our sustainability, our land stewardship, being a good neighbor, and growing the Lake County appellation. This property is in a remote location. There are no on-site views from neighboring houses or residential onto the property. And we're willing to use generators that are purchased new that are much quieter. And as soon as we can get that solar or electrical on the property, we will cease from using them. We have a workforce that rotates year-round. We have a processing facility in Lower Lake. And rather than using seasonal labor and furloughing everybody, which a lot of the farms do, they will move to our processing facility or work on the land to do cleanup and land management. So we provide our staff full-time jobs with benefits, 401k, dental, vision, medical. That one. So as I mentioned, out of 720 acres that were previously slated for individual ranchettes and a vineyard will now effectively be a nature preserve with disturbing only 30 acres, largely which is cleared and free of trees. We will maximize our solar power use, the use of state-approved fertilizers and pesticides only. We practice organic farming as well. I guess the state has a new program which can be considered organic for cannabis, but because it's federally trademarked, you cannot say the word cannabis and organic, but all of the amendments used will be organic. We'll minimize noise and light impacts. As I mentioned before, there's no visibility from neighboring properties onto our property. The drought-tolerant native plant species and grasses will be planted as a vegetative buffer along all waterways. Bat habitats and assessment boxes for roosting will be implemented prior to any development. And thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns.
I have a couple questions regarding use of the word organic. So you're saying that you will use only OMRI-approved?
That is correct.
Products. Okay, thank you. And you talk about a preserve. Are you willing to make a legal commitment to that wildland preserve area?
So Andrew had brought that up when we visited the site a few weeks ago, and I didn't have enough time to research what the impacts of that actually was. And so I just feel like I need to research that more as a landowner and developer and see what that entails. But we've talked to several veterans groups and different groups about, using the property for hiking and things like that. There are trails throughout the property that were developed by the previous owner. And it's just a really beautiful, beautiful property. And I want to use it to its full potential. And we want lots of people to be able to come and enjoy the property. But I would have to look into what that means. But I'm open to it.
I don't have any further questions. I just have some comments, unless you guys have questions. In the responses to the public comments, I heard over and over again the use of the word significant impacts. And I have gone over it in my head. I'm not a CEQA attorney, but I can't find that an EIR is bypassable. I just feel like this is such a big parcel, and it's such an important part of Lake County that I would like to see a full CEQA review. I just can't, with all the, Andrew spoke with a biologist about these 4 threatened species that are up there. I just don't feel like, I feel like the county is legally vulnerable. And maybe because I don't know enough about the process, but I just can't find that this is insignificant. So that's my main comment.
I got it.
And again, I'd like to see a commitment of some kind. I mean, just saying it, that's nice, but that's kind of not enough for me. I did the math on the 11 acres, I believe, and I think you have enough water for that, but 15 is pushing it. So those are my comments. Thanks.
I'd like to respond by saying I think that the word significant is thrown around a lot, especially in terms of cannabis projects. And it's kind of the kitchen sink approach to CEQA. My attorney's actually in the Zoom room, and I'd like him to respond to the EIR comments, as well as Montrose, who developed the initial study with those findings, which we believe are adequate.
Can we confirm that they're available in the
That
Zoom
would
room?
be James Anderson.
And I want to respond specifically to the bird species comment, because the 3 of the species that were named of the 4 are not known to inhabit this region. So there was a little bit of overreach there or confusion about where the birds actually live, and that was addressed in the biological survey and then also in the comments as well. Not to minimize the importance of bird habitat, but they had just misjudged where they actually live. And the species that was found was addressed in Andrew's mitigation efforts.
That is true. The original comments came from Fish and Wildlife, and then in a follow-up discussion with Steve Zaleski, I believe, he used to work, he's a biologist who works on several projects. He pointed out that it was, for most of those species, he doubted that they were actually in that location. However, then when I mentioned where it specifically it was on, I forgot the name of the ridge, Hogback Ridge, he said that's kind of the fringe area of where those species kind of hit its limit. They're pretty much predominantly found further north. So.
I heard you. Thanks.
Participant in the Zoom room, James Anderson. You are now allowed to speak.
Good morning, Commissioners. I just want to confirm that you can all hear me.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Perfect. So I just want to respond to the comment about what a significant impact is. So CEQA, as a statute, doesn't define what is a significant impact, and it calls for a careful judgment on the part of the public agency based on scientific and factual data. It'd be impossible to create, a single definition for any project. Projects that exist in different areas may have different impacts just depending on the surrounding environment, so to speak. And so, there is nothing in CEQA, and I think we outlined this in our letter, that specifically states that the size or the footprint of a project, by itself would create significant impacts. In other words, there's no reason that this project, just because it's X number of acres, 11 acres or 15 acres at full build out, would have significant impacts. The impacts aren't defined by the size, they're defined by the specific environmental impact that they may have, if any. So I think that responds to the Commissioner's question or comment relating to significant impact. And if you have additional questions relating to CEQA, I'm available to answer them.
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions. I think it's just a matter of perspective. Thank you.
So regarding the PG&E power utility, it was mentioned that it would require the approval of the neighbors. Is that correct?
It depends on where you bring the power in from. The closest power that's less than a mile away is on a neighboring property. And I believe that would require the approval of the neighbors. I'm not 100% on that fact, so I would have to defer to council on that. However, there are other ways to bring in power, but we can't discuss those until we do a full PG&E assessment, and they won't talk to us until a major use permit is approved. In the absence of PG&E, we would be using solar. So we just have to do the cost-benefit analysis on our side as to what makes sense. And the 75 versus 25 was just kind of a proposal for the application as proposed, but we have to do the full cost-benefit analysis with PG&E to determine that.
So the reason why I mentioned that question was because, well, I guess your relationship with the neighbors, and if you guys are in good standing with the project, because usually cannabis and, you know, how that usually goes, do you think that would be something that is possible, that the neighbors would approve?
I think it's possible, but it's also speculative. We have talked to those neighbors before.
You have broached this with them?
Yes, it was a few years ago, and we actually talked about perhaps purchasing their property as well, which is still an option. So we have to negotiate with the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any, since we are still in public comment, is there any hands in the Zoom room?
No.
I heard you, yeah. Is there anybody in chambers that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll be closing public comment and bringing it back to the commission.
Commissioners, if I may, as per your, I'm not sure if you remember, but as per your recently adopted bylaws and the amendments that you included there, you have provided yourself the option of voting to continue an item with only a quorum of those in the room. So if one of you were to bring a motion to continue this item, it would only take 2 votes to continue it. That is the only vote in which you can vote with less than a quorum of the full body, but it is an option you have here. You also have the option of bringing the motion to either approve or deny the item in front of you as well.
And approval would require
3.
a unanimous vote.
Correct.
I can only read tea leaves, but I'm wondering if a vote to continue might appeal to the applicant, because just doing the math as I'm doing it here, I don't know that we have 3 votes. And we must be unanimous since we have such a small quorum.
Can we take a moment?
Of course.
While they're conferring, I just wanted to let the commission know that we would be able to continue this to a time date certain so that it would not require us going back to noticing in the paper. And so we would schedule this one for our next available slot, which is June 8th at 9:35, should the commission decide to continue.
I would prefer that there were more commissioners here to hear the project. That is my thought. Thank you.
In that event, Mr. Chair, I would move that we continue this to a date certain of June 8, 2023 at 9:35 a.m.
I can second that, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
We have to reopen.
Moving on to our next item, 6C, public hearing, consideration of general plan of conformity determination, GPC 23-01, and categorical exemption CE 23-13 for acquisition of property.
Chair Chavez?
Yes.
If I might, since Commissioner Field is about to recuse herself, we will no longer have a quorum. So what staff requests is that a motion to continue this item to our next meeting at 10 a.m. Be approved by the commission.
Can I vote on that?
Yes.
You
I
want to
so
make-
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes to move this item to the next meeting. Moving on to our next item, 6D, public hearing, consideration of proposed major use permit UP 20-26 and mitigated negative declaration IS 20-29 for CC Ranch Enterprises for approval of one A-type 3 outdoor commercial cannabis cultivation permit and one Type 13 self-distribution transport only permit consisting of 14,756 square feet of canopy area within 17,116 square feet of cultivation area located at 2507 and 2515 Clover Valley Road, Upper Lake, APNs 004-017-07 and 004-017-10.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Claiborne. I'm an assistant planner with the Planning Division. It's a pleasure to present to you today. The project up for discussion today is major use permit, major use permit identified as UP 2026, initial study IS 2029 for CC Ranch Enterprises, the applicant Forrest Ellie at 2507 and 2515 Clover Valley Road, Upper Lake, California. At APNs 004-017-07 and 004-017-10. The agenda today will include the permit request, the project scope, site description, project analysis, cumulative impacts, and recommendations and conditions. The major use permit for commercial cannabis cultivation consists of one A-type 3 medium outdoor license, one Type 13 self-transport distribution license, and 14,756 square feet of outdoor canopy. The total parcel sizes combined of the two parcels are approximately 81.6 acres in total. As you can see within the vicinity map, the project parcel is located approximately 1.4 miles north of the Nice-Lucerne cutoff. The project parcel is located approximately 1.8 miles southeast of Upper Lake Unified School District. The site is accessed from Clover Valley Road. The zoning map shows that the general plan zoning is rural lands and base zoning is also rural lands. It is located within the Upper Lake Nice planning area. Parcels within the vicinity are zoned agricultural preserve, rural lands, and open space. This is also located within Supervisory District 3. The site is accessed by shared private driveway access road that connects directly to Clover Valley Road and leads to the cultivation area on parcel identified as APN 004-017-10. Appropriate setbacks from Class 3 ephemeral watercourses, no channels or wetlands within the cultivation areas. The project scope includes 2 cultivation areas. Cultivation Area 1 is located at 2507 Clover Valley Road, and Cultivation Area 2 is located at 2515 Clover Valley Road. The project scope consists of 14,756 square feet of outdoor canopy area, 17,116 square feet of cultivation area, 8 200 square foot drying sheds, 1 200 square foot security building, 1 200 square foot storage for pesticides, fertilizers, and nutrients, 1 200 square foot storage shed, and 1 160 square foot storage container. Existing uses include, and improvements include, groundwater well with a maximum yield of approximately 15 gallons per minute, access road shared by private driveway that connects directly to Clover Valley Road, above-ground garden beds, early activation issued in 2021 for 14,756 square feet of canopy, and a backup generator for emergency use. Should also be noted that the well uses solar power. Project analysis, the regulations reviewed for compliance. The Lake County General Plan, Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and state regulations. Within the Lake County General Plan, Rural Lands General Plan's designation was reviewed. No conflicting policies within the General Plan. No specific policies addressing commercial cannabis cultivation in the General Plan. Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, Policy 3.1.1A, employ appropriate erosion control measures during and after construction of new subdivisions, roads, or other activities involving movement of earth. Objective 3.3.1, protect and preserve the Upper Lake Nice planning area's archaeological and historical resources for the long-term benefits of residents, tourists, archaeologists, and future generations. Further project analysis utilizing the Lake County Zoning Ordinance was used. Article 7, Rural Lands District, and Article 27, Uses Generally Permitted. The CEQA initial study found that the project could cause potential impacts to resources in the following categories: aesthetics, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources and tribal resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, transportation and traffic, and wildfire. California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, a mitigated negative declaration is the proposed CEQA environmental determination for the project. All identified impacts can be reduced to less than significant with mitigation measures incorporated. Public comment period occurred from January 31st, 2023 to March 1st, 2023. Mitigations are outlined in Staff Report Attachments 2, Draft Conditions of Approval, and Attachment 4, Draft Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration. AB 52 Tribal Consultation Notice was sent to local tribes on September 4th, 2020. 3 responses were received. The cultural resource representative reached out from the Middletown Rancheria and declined to comment for the project. The Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians did not seek consultation. The Cultural Resources Director, Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Habematol Pomo of Upper Lake Tribe, declined to comment for the project. The following documents have been provided by the applicant and have been in accordance with Urgency Ordinance Number 3106, a hydrology report and a drought management plan. The water availability analysis prepared by Gregory Engineering included a well performance test performed in 2020 indicating the on-site groundwater well can sustainably produce 15 gallons per minute. The estimated annual water use for the total proposed cultivation operation with 14,756 square feet of cannabis canopy would be approximately 0.78 acre feet or 252,959 gallons. Aspects of interest, neighboring well concerns. On February 22, 2023, the owner of the parcel adjacent to APN 004-017-10, also identified as Cultivation Site B, provided concerns of the proximity of their well due to the project site's well. Utilizing GIS, it has been determined that the off-site well and project well are approximately 550 feet apart. The project well is located at an elevation of 1,995 feet, and it is approximately 240 feet deep. The neighboring well is located in an elevation of 1,805 feet and is approximately 140 feet deep. Should both wells be drawing from the same water supply, due to topography, the off-site well is approximately 40 feet deeper than the well on the project site. Here is a conceptual well elevation drawing, depth in relation to topography provided by Cannabis Program Manager Andrew Emelung. This shows essentially what we've been hearing folks talk about within these hearings, and it would be who's got the deeper straw, so to speak. So this visual was able to be provided to us so we could have a better understanding instead of just being able to hear it, but also see it.
I love this.
Cumulative impacts. Within a 3-mile radius of the proposed project, there are 4 approved projects and 2 pending projects. The proposed project has been planned and designed to avoid impacts as discussed within the CEQA analysis within the draft initial study mitigated negative declaration. Recommendations. Environmental review recommendations. Adopt a mitigated negative declaration for initial study IS 2029 for major use permit UP 2026 with findings found in the staff report. Major use permit recommendations. Approve major use permit 2026 with the proposed conditions of approval and findings found within the staff report. I also have one thing I would like to note. There was an item green sheeted for you today. It was a supplemental hydrology. And with that, this is something that the applicant went above and beyond and also introduced how he would integrate more measures during drought years. So with that, the applicants can speak more directly for this portion of the project. Thank you.
Is the applicant present?
Yes. The applicant is present.
So I will be opening public comment. If you wish to come up and explain your management plan.
Forrest Ellie, and I appreciate your time looking over this project. I appreciate you presenting it, Mary. I want to start with, I'm a farm owner. I'm a farmer, I'm a family man, and a trusted Farm Bureau member. I've been in the county since 2008. I'm here, I raised my family here, and I want to see Lake County thrive. I've seen Lake County go through good and bad times, and you know, we would like to provide some jobs if we do get this approved, and help the county thrive through an agricultural commodity that we believe in. We farm organically, and we'll be putting in organic amendments into our soil. So we've heard some concerns from our neighbor regarding the water, and we've also gone through drought years in the past. Water has concerned us across Lake County and other counties with the drought that we experienced the last few years. So through Jess Gregory and our team, we've created a plan to, if there was a drought across where we're cultivating, through the map here, through the U.S. Drought Monitor map, if our area was in a D1, D2, D3, and D4, we've chose to voluntarily reduce cultivation water use by 1% in D2. If we were into D3, which is further into a drought map, we've decided to reduce cultivation water by 2%, and into extreme drought, we would reduce cultivation water by 4%. As being a good neighbor is important to us. We've also done a lot of work to the roads and making our neighborhood fire safe. So we strive to be good neighbors.
Thanks for that commitment.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Ms. Bauer, Ann Bauer, who
Yes,
wrote
sir.
to the commission, certainly thinks you're a good neighbor. She has worries about the future if you were no longer to be the steward of that land, but that's not the issue at hand today. But she did mention that PG&E stops on her property.
Uh-huh.
And it sounds like you're going to rely on PG&E for the security system, or that's what the staff report says. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Have you talked to her about establishing that connection beyond her property?
You know, at this time, we would like to see if we can get this project approved, and then we would be talking to PG&E. I have not talked to her about bringing the power forward, but I know it's about 600 feet to bring it onto my property, and we do plan to bring PG&E onto this property when we can. For now, our security cameras are game cameras, and we believe they fit your standards. And they're active, they're on all sites, and we do have security in place, as well as gates. And we keep an eye on our property and our product and also our neighborhood. We've worked with Ann in the past to stay in communication with if there was any unknown visitors or any issues on her property or my property, and we stay in contact.
Thank you.
I just have a little question. First of all, those two comments that we saw are the only public comments we've received, correct? I'm talking to her, I guess. And I wanted to acknowledge, I think it's great to have a good relationship with this Ann Bauer. She wrote a 7-page letter. I'm sure you saw it. She's very concerned about the road, and I think that's addressed in the transportation, Trans 1. But my question is, for staff, if he sells, I understand the permit goes with the property, what 10 years from now is available to the neighbor for legal recourse if, I guess Nicole thinks it's.
I can respond.
Okay.
So with that, if there is a transfer of use permit at a later date and time, the new permit holder shall be responsible for the same conditions of approval.
Right, and I don't think it says maintenance, it just says road improvements.
When it comes to any use permit that is approved and issued, it does attach to the land and it follows the land. So anybody who owns the property in the future, or anybody who has permission of the current or future owners, can use the permit. In doing so, they have to meet any and all criteria attached to the permit. So they would have to meet all of the criteria related to a cannabis grow if they were going to use this permit, and any of the conditions you approve today, if you approve it today, would apply to them as well. And any neighbors or any members of the community would have the same recourse that they would now, should you approve the permit. They would go through the process in community development, they would issue a complaint, code enforcement would be sent out, and there is the potential for, depending on violations, there's a potential for revocation of the permit, and therefore, after that, the use would no longer be possible on the property.
So I understand that. I'm just wondering, can we add something about road maintenance in here? Is that appropriate? I mean, I don't think it's a deal killer. I'm kind of wondering.
Would the road maintenance pertain to the project itself and potential impacts, or
Well, it
any of
impacts
the
this
mandatory
neighbor.
findings?
That's why I'm bringing it up, because the neighbor brought it up and she's worried about it. So I've seen other projects in Lake County where sure, they improved the road, but after 10 years, there's a bunch of potholes and all the neighbors are not happy about it. So I'm wondering if we can just put comma and maintenance.
Well, typically when condition improvements and upgrades for roads are added, it's related to a particular condition in the sense, or addressing an impact of the project. So for example, the project uses the road, it increases the impacts to the road, and therefore maintenance and repair or upgrade of the road is included as a mitigation of those impacts. So if that is what you're asking, then it is a possibility, but
Okay.
I would recommend that you include the facts from the material presented to you that would support that mitigation.
Could I comment on your comment, Commissioner? I understand your point. I'm looking forward, beyond the 10 years here, but in the very paragraph in which she raises her concerns about the road, she notes that Mr. Forrest has been an excellent neighbor and doesn't appear to have any concerns about what these next 10 years look like. So I'm not sure it would be fair to impose an additional burden on the good neighbor. That's just my response to your comment. Thanks.
Yeah, and there's this mitigation measure, Trans 1, addresses the immediate future, but it doesn't address anything down the road. So I'm wondering.
Revocation is a powerful tool.
Well, there's no grounds to revoke it if he did actually do the improvements. So what I'm saying is, can we just amend this Trans 1 to read, the applicant will be required to submit and have approved a timeline to make all necessary road improvements to comply with PRC section blah, 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 to comply with necessary road improvements and ongoing maintenance? That's not very good wording, but I'd like to see.
Would the applicant like to comment?
Sure, I'd love to speak to that. The road is a mountain road. We've brought in a emasticator in the past when we started this process to widen the road 20 feet from the center of the road. And it really changed this road. It was overgrown before that, and it made the road much safer. And we will continue to keep that road in good shape as we're invested in this project. And we plan to stay here in Lake County and hopefully provide for our family and other families off this property.
I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you. I think that perhaps without, this is messy adding ongoing maintenance. So I think for now, I'll just let it be and be satisfied with that.
Thank you. As I could say, the letter says, some of the other letters, I have maintenance the road in the past, and I don't plan to abandon maintenance on my road by any means.
All right, well, that satisfies my concern. I have no other concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any hands in the Zoom room?
Participant in Zoom room, Anne, you may unmute. Please state your name.
Yes. Yes, hi, this is Ann Bauer. Yeah, I just wanted to speak up and thank everyone, excuse me, for including me, and thanks for speaking up for me. And I have a good feeling about this project. I've spoken to Forrest several times. I feel like we can work together, with the road and these issues. My main concern was the well, and I'm happy that that's been included. I wanted to thank Andrew and Mary. Andrew helped me, identify the location of my well, and Mary worked on including it. And she assured me that somewhere in the public record, the location of my well be included. And, just for down the road, and I know Forrest doesn't plan on selling, but, things can happen. And so I'm feeling really comfortable with this, and I want to support the project and Forrest. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ann, for your comment. Are there any more hands in the Zoom room?
No more hands.
All right, anybody in chambers wishes to speak? Seeing nobody in the chambers, I'll be closing public comment and bringing it back to the commission for action.
I'm ready to make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission find the potential impacts associated with this project can be mitigated to less than significant through the implementation of the mitigated negative declaration IS 20-29 for the property located at 2507 and 2515 Clover Valley Road, Upper Lake, and will not have a significant effect on the environment, and that the Planning Commission adopt initial study 2029 based on the findings listed in the staff report dated April 27th, 2023.
Second?
I move that,
Yeah, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion passes.
I further move that the Planning Commission grant the major use permit UP 2026 for the CC Ranch Enterprises Forest Ely on property located at 2507 and 2515 Clover Valley Road, Upper Lake, based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the staff report dated April 27th, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I guess so, yeah. The applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-day calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the planning commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fees must be paid prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th day following the planning commission's decision on this matter.
Thank you. It's Eric, right? Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for your help. Good luck. Appreciate it. All right.
Moving on to our next item, 6E, public hearing consideration of proposed tentative parcel map PM 22-02 and initial study IS 22-39 to divide one plus or minus 34 acre lot into 4 plus or minus 5 acre parcels and one about 14 acre remainder lot. Applicant Scotts Valley Energy Corporation. Project location is at 7130 Red Hills Road in Kelseyville, California. The APN is 009-021-07.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eric Porter, Associate Planner, Lake County. Good morning. So we have a non-cannabis item, thankfully. The Scotts Valley Energy Corp is a corporation owned by the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo. They purchased the land with the intention of eventually developing it for tribal dwellings. Property is 34 acres. It's catty corner to Kitts Corner, which you can see up here on the map. Split zoned. The highway fronting portion is zoned CHDR, which is Highway Commercial Design Review, and it's intended for commercial development. The tribe does not have any immediate plans to develop either the commercial part or the part that's zoned rural residential, scenic combining, which is the part in the green where the yellow arrow is. Project is located on Red Hills Road, which is a semi-improved county-maintained road. One of the conditions would require the tribe to improve the east side of Red Hills Road, and that is actually a condition of approval. The applicant wants to split the green portion into 4 lots. There's a shot of the aerial photo of that property. As you can see on the tentative map, they're proposing a shared internal driveway that they're calling Pomo Drive. And that would serve essentially all 4 lots, and it may require an extension when the commercial lot develops, depending on Caltrans' willingness to provide an access easement to that property. However, since the commercial property is not developing currently, that's an issue that we don't have to figure out today. So worst case scenario would be that they have to extend the interior shared access to provide a rear access to that commercial part, which is this portion up here. Each of the lots will be 5 acres. The intention of the tribe is to put a main dwelling, an accessory dwelling, and a JADU, which is a junior accessory dwelling unit, on each of the 4 lots. The lots would use a shared well. A well test was done in 2020. It's not a mega producing well. Produced about 20 gallons at the startup, and it reduced down to 10 over a consistent time period. I believe it was a 2-hour well test, but I'd have to verify that. So what's before you today is a decision to whether to approve a tentative map. If you approve the tentative map, the applicant would then be able to come back following completion of the different conditions of approval, including the improvements to Red Hills Road. And once they meet the conditions, then they would record the final map. The tentative map approval period is 2 years. And so they would have to have everything, all the conditions would need to be met within that 2-year time frame, or they would have to apply for an extension. The site itself, as I indicated, it's accessed by a shared driveway from Red Hills Road. That driveway would serve the 4 lots, and they're on a shared well. Each lot would have an individual septic system. There are several dwellings out there now. There is, I believe, 1 septic system that's out on the ground now with a permitted septic system. So they would need to install additional septic. Conditions, as I indicated, they would need a shared well agreement, half with improvements to Red Hills Road. Fish and wildlife fee needs to be paid. They're not proposing to dedicate any land for recreational use, so they would, instead of dedicating land, they would need to pay the Quimby Park fee, which is intended to help purchase and maintain county parkland. They would have to have a turnaround at the terminus of the interior driveway, Pomo Way, and they would need an encroachment permit for any work done in the right-of-way. That would go through the County Public Works Department. General plan, we found there were no conflicts in Chapter 3. I didn't evaluate any of the other chapters, although there is a chapter in the general plan for housing. We didn't evaluate this for low income because there's no development being proposed. And so I didn't include any findings for low income housing, although I believe that the tribal members that are participating in construction may qualify, but I don't know if that would include everybody or just a portion of the tribal members. It's within the Riviera area plan boundary, and there is no conflicts with this land division with the Riviera area plan. County Code, Chapter 17 is the big one. It deals with land divisions, and in this case it would be subdivisions. It lists submittal requirements for parcel maps. Those have all been met. It lists the review requirements for parcel maps. We have thoroughly reviewed this project for compliance. For such things as minimum lot size, you're allowed to go 5 acres in the RR zoning district. Use compatibility, this is an area, I'm going to go back up here, show you the zoning map. This is in an area, it's got mixed uses. This is a mini storage next door. The commercially zoned portion of this lot And then across Red Hills Road are other rural residential lots. So there's compatibility with what's around it to a degree. I don't know that I would say that the mini storage is a compatible use, but the land to the west across Red Hills Road certainly is. And we were able to make a finding that the project fully complies with Chapter 17 of the county code, which is the subdivision ordinance. Article 8 covers uses that are permitted in the RR zoning district. And as I indicated, it allows 5-acre lots, allows residential development, and we couldn't find any conflicts with Article 8. Article 16 is the highway commercial zoning district, requires a minimum 40,000 square foot lot. The remainder lot that would be created is 14 acres, which is well over the 40,000 square foot minimum. The remainder lot would also require a certificate of compliance to validate the lot. So in other words, they wouldn't necessarily need to come back and redivide that lot if they did the certificate of compliance, and that was according to our county surveyor. Did a CEQA evaluation, that was IS 2239, and it resulted in a negative declaration with no mitigation measures, which is a little bit unusual, but they're not proposing any development. So there's no obvious site disturbance that's tied to creating 4 lots. Public comments, we received none. Neighbors within 725 feet of the property were notified of this project, and nobody had any concerns about it that were raised to staff. So our recommendation is to adopt negative declaration IS 22-39 and to approve tentative parcel map PM 2202 with the findings listed in the staff report dated today. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eric. I will be opening up public comment just to check the Zoom room.
Participants in Zoom? Oh, one participant in Zoom?
All right. So since public comment is open, if they wish to speak, please invite them.
Participant in Zoom room, Tom Jordan, you are now allowed to speak. Please state your name.
Did anybody hear what I just said?
No.
Not a word. I'm sorry, I'm in Santa Rosa, being a transporter for a family medical appointment issue. So this is Tom Jordan. I am the Economic Development Director for Scotts Valley Band. I have reviewed the initial study, the CEQA document, and staff's report, and I believe Mr. Porter has given you a clear and succinct description of the project and the intent of the project, and I hope you can see it that way as well. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I have some questions. So this is to provide, the intent of this subdivision is to provide 4 single-family homes with what we call granny units, which will be adjacent to a biomass facility. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, I think the biomass facility is in parcel 3.
In the agency comments, I see Health Services requested a redrawing of the lines to correct a problem with septic lines being on neighboring parcels. Was this accomplished?
I can answer that. Yes, they've revised the map.
Okay, thank you. And maybe this is a question for Mr. Porter. The last agency comment refers to an attachment that I didn't see. And I think it was about infill. so I have great concerns about subdividing parcels without knowing what's going to happen there.
Which agency comment are you referring to,
Let me
Commissioner?
look at it. Yoka De Winton Nation's response. If you, please see attached letter for Yoka De Winton Nations, and I apologize for mispronouncing that, response in regards to the Scotts Valley 7130 Red Hills Road, Kelseyville. Additionally, a hard copy of the response will be mailed for your records. And there's
It would have been a deferral to a different tribe. It's not within Yokadee's ancestral area.
Yokadihi, okay. Thank you, that answers that question. My other concern was, there was a reference to infill, that this would be infill, and I'm not understanding how, I mean, my understanding of the term infill is instead of building urban areas out into large rural areas like this is suggesting, instead, when we plan, we should fill in properties that are using properties that are already surrounded by high or medium density. So what is being proposed here is not, as I understand it, infill. It's actually the opposite. So I'm wondering if I'm misunderstanding it or someone can explain.
If I could just add one point. According to state law, the accessory dwelling units or junior accessory dwelling units, should they ever be developed in the future, which is not a given, it's not part of actually this project, they do not count as an increase in density.
I understand that. I'm not sure if that's, that isn't my question.
Oh, just regarding the
My question is
infill.
about the subdivision itself. I mean, we're taking a large parcel and making several smaller parcels.
Well, the zoning in the RR zoning district allows lots as small as 5 acres. So regardless of what it's called, it would be appropriate in terms of the size of the land that results. And so I regard it as being infill. Technically, it could be considered as either, I suppose.
Okay, so the general plan does provide for this small of a parcel in that area? Okay,
That's correct.
all right, that's good enough for me, thanks.
I know that potentially this comment doesn't have anything to do with the lot division, but I'm just thinking of having those, and I know that there's already homes that are already there, so the lines are just kind of to divide them into different parcels, but there's wineries all the way around, and I'm just concerned with the pollution from pesticides from the wineries to the people that are going to be living there. So that's just, I don't know if public health or air quality have commented on that, but I guess it's just land ownership at that point.
Environmental Health commented on it. They didn't have any adverse comments about it. Air quality or the ag commissioner, I don't recall if they commented. It's fairly typical in an agricultural county like Lake County that, you know, you've got a conflict potential in many parts of the county. And when people decide to build a house, whether it's on a winery property or not, or adjacent to it, the risk of having some spillage, spillover, whatever you want to call it, from pesticides on neighboring properties exists. It hasn't hit, to my knowledge, any radars on being potentially harmful. I'm looking at the agency comments right now. You've got environmental health.
Yeah, I didn't see anything regarding that, but it was just kind of, I just wanted to make that comment. It has nothing to do with what we're discussing today regarding the lines, but just looking out for, you know, pollution of pesticides to the residents that are going to be living in these neighboring to wineries, but.
I can make a comment if it's appropriate. I used to actually manage a vineyard in the neighborhood, and vineyards are pretty low pesticide use, and most of them are sustainably farmed in this area. But I think that's a real concern because we have a right to farm ordinance in this county that, as I understand it, the farmers can make a lot of noise in the middle of the night. They can dusting sulfur, what? Odors. Oh, yeah, dusting sulfur is a common practice throughout the summer. But they are required to do so when air movement does not allow, and that's not the exact terminology of the ordinance, but we're not allowed to spray or dust when it will drift. So I appreciate that, but I'm not concerned about it as a farmer. And if you're actually talking about wineries, there are 2 wineries up on the hill, but I think they're far enough away that I don't think it would be a concern.
Commissioners, if I may. What you're being asked to consider here today is the subdivision and the impacts of the subdivision of the property itself. So there will, if there is ever a proposed use for each of these lots or the lot in and of itself, then those uses would in and of themselves be subject to a CEQA evaluation also.
So that's when we'd have that discussion?
That's when that
Okay,
discussion
thank
would
you.
occur. So right now, the impacts you would be considering would be the potential for example, the potential for increase of development or increase of use of the lands, because instead of 1 lot, now you have 4. So those are the sorts of impacts that a subdivision would lead to for an analysis. But anything that would be related to a specific use of those lots further down the line, other than the general possibility of using the lots for increased number of uses, those would be analyzed at that time.
And we did receive a comment from the Ag Commissioner. She had no comments. Didn't see anything from air quality in there.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to, I knew that it wasn't part of the discussion, but I just wanted to put it out there, just because. But I will be closing public comment if there's none on the Zoom room.
Participants in the Zoom room.
Seeing no hands in chambers, I will bring it back to the commission.
I just have a comment that I'm very nervous about approving a subdivision without knowing what is going to be going on, but I do think it'll probably improve the property values. So I don't see how I can find any reason to oppose it.
Shall I have her? Okay, a motion then. I move that the Planning Commission adopt initial study IS 22-39, the tentative parcel map for the Scotts Valley Energy Corporation located at 7130 Red Hills Road, Kelseyville, APN 009-021-07, with the findings listed in the staff report dated May 11, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the tentative parcel map PM 22-02 submitted by the Scotts Valley Energy Corporation for property located at 7130 Red Hills Road, Kelseyville, APN 009-021-07, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated May 11, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. The applicant or any interested person is reminded that the subdivision ordinance provides for a 15-day calendar day appeal. Was it 15 or?
That's correct.
Yeah? Okay, 15 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fees must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 15th calendar day following the Commission's final determination.
Yeah, land divisions have a 15-day appeal period.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. All right, so. Moving on to. Thank you. Non-timed items. Thank you, Eric.
Nope.
No non-timed items. We will move on to department update.
Thank you. I have a few things to highlight this week. We have a hopeful Deputy Community Development Administrator going through the hiring process. And so I am very excited to have news to announce as soon as she's done with that. So hopefully by the next meeting, because it can't happen too fast for me. We just onboarded a new code enforcement office assistant. We're all very thankful to have Gina Weiss join our team now, and she's actually learning so fast and really helping to pick up the slack there. We lost one code enforcement officer, and so I wanted to just send a kudos out to our Human Resources Department because they are on it. So as soon as they've already started working on getting that posting so that we can get that staff back up to where we need it to be. And then Commissioner Hess asked what we had coming this summer, so I am super happy to give you an update on our request for proposals for the general plan and associated documents, which are our local area plans. I am just doing the final review and edits on the draft RFP. We did get a first RFP. We did gather a couple proposals, but they weren't really addressing the issues that we really needed, so we didn't consider them viable. So we are working on updating, fine-tuning this next RFP version, and so we're hoping to release that next week. It's kind of waiting on me. Like a lot of things that staff does in a timely manner, I end up being a bottleneck. So hopefully with this new deputy administrator, I'll be less of a bottleneck. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And so, yeah, so hopefully this summer we will launch our 5-year plan of our general plan, local area plans, and some associated standalone elements for our general plan. So stay tuned. Yes, you're going to get sick of us talking about general plans and advanced plans and community vision, but I can't wait. It's going to be great. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I will adjourn the meeting at 11:22. Yay. Should I hit it harder?